Lost in Vivo is a fantastic indie horror game done in the style of the first Silent Hill game on the PlayStation 1 and done in a first-person perspective. It's great. I could gush about this game forever, so I will. But here's what I'm going to recommend for you right now. Go and buy this game if you trust my opinions on games at all, because I'm going to be spoiling the shit out of certain segments of this game. Not the whole game, of course, but there will be certain memorable, if not iconic moments from the game that I will be using as points to demonstrate why this game is so good and why I'd recommend you get it. I will be leaving links to where you can get it below. It's available on Steam, Itch.io, and I believe Jolt. Anywhere that it's available to get will be in the description below. So note, full spoiler warning ahead for the rest of the game. Lost in Vivo can be best described as claustrophobic, and this isn't some esoteric meaning that I've ascribed to the game, but more so a description of the game itself from its creator. The story starts off like this. You are walking your support dog, and it starts to rain. The rain goes harder and harder, and eventually your dog is washed away in the storm drain, meaning that you now have to go into the sewers and look for your dog. Seems simple enough, but not everything down there is kosher, we'll say. People who have been there previously, as well as a few less than expected encounters along the way. A lot of things that are kinda mindfucky in the same vein that you would expect for a sort of psychological horror or survival horror game. It also pulls a few meta tricks on you, breaking the fourth wall, Sanity's Requiem style. This particular scene really got me going. What? Wait, what? No. What do you mean my save is gone? Okay, that's... Okay, no, I got it. I'm gonna walk out, and I'm gonna walk back in. Oh, no! No, don't kill me! Don't kill me! Don't... Motherfucker! I lost my save. I hope there's an autosave or something. Let's just... Okay, hit continue. Oh no! It's the beginning of the game. I've been playing for hours. Oh. Okay, save. You got me. I wasn't expecting that. This game, in my opinion, sets itself apart from its competition via moments like this, as well as its general aesthetic. The gameplay in and of itself is not what I would describe as deep, but it doesn't have to be because it's emulating older games that also weren't particularly deep. And I am mainly hooked with this game because of these moments as well as the visuals and the soundtrack. They're very convincingly retro in both regards, and it absolutely gives off a Akira Yamaoka vibe whenever I listen to them, and it's just fantastic. In order to help me better demonstrate qualities about this game, as well as provide some additional info for those of you who are curious, I invited the developer of this game, Akuma Kira, to do an interview and to answer some questions that I had about the game and its development. Hello?
Hey.
Hey there, how's it going?
That's good. Not sure my microphone's very good quality right now, but...
Oh no, this is perfect. This is just fine. Tell us a little about yourself, what you do.
Well, I've always just kind of like... I've been making games since I was 12, It's what I do for my full-time job now. I graduated with my bachelor's in game design in 2017, I guess, or 18. I don't remember. So I've only been working full-time on this for like a year, but I've been working on it part-time since like forever. I don't really know what all to add here.
Oh no, that's fine. I didn't. I was asking because I didn't want to pry. Like since you go by like a screen handle, I didn't want to like pry into personal info is all.
Oh yeah. The only reason I do that is it's not to keep my fans away from me. It's to keep my grandparents away from my content.
Fair enough.
So,
what was the core idea behind Lost in Vivo, or was there something that prompted you to make it?
the real core idea was just claustrophobia and what kind of like techniques I could use to make claustrophobia. I think I was watching a let's play of some indie horror game, and I thought it'd be good to use low FOV to invoke claustrophobia in a game, and to use like really heavy fog and other gameplay tricks. I thought it would translate really well to a video game. So that was kind of the core idea for it. I had a short story I wrote like 5 years ago about these two people who get stuck in a cave or like a mine after a cave-in, and then that kind of went into it a little bit, but that was mostly about cannibalism, and that's not really prevalent at all in Lost in Vivo, so it's kind of adapted long ways.
Here's a question, and I mention this because it varies based on interviews with other kind of creators. Do you get scared by your own games, or do you get scared while making your horror games?
I do, but usually it's only when something that's not supposed to happen happens. Like an enemy just misbehaves, or it's usually always enemy related. They won't do what they're supposed to do, but they'll do something creepy. And a lot of times, then I'll add that in on purpose because it'll be a good idea. I think the worst case of that ever happened with a game like I made years ago that was never released, but there was just this zombie that was supposed to walk up to you and play a slap animation and hurt you. And I programmed it all fine, and then when I started it, he froze the player in place. He dragged them towards him instead of moving towards them, and then he played the animation in reverse and then looped his screaming sound. And that's like the most surprising thing that's ever happened, and been a little startling.
Oh, wow. On that note, to kind of do a follow-up to that, in your experience when making this or other games, what's been the most difficult thing about making this game?
I think about halfway through, I kind of got burnt out on it, because there are periods where I'll work every day for a week, like as soon as I wake up until like 5 o'clock. And I'll just kind of be out of ideas at that point, and I'll have to take some time off to really want to get back into it. And there's technical issues that pop up that I have trouble with. Sometimes it feels like the whole project's just gonna be abandoned because of the prevalent technical issues, but luckily I was able to work through everything for this game.
Are there any games or movies that have inspired elements of this game? I'm sure Silent Hill maybe gets brought up one or two times.
Yeah, that gets brought up a lot. There's a lot of games that really inspired influence sections of it, like the enemy design in Bloodborne and the overall level architecture of like Resident Evil games, where you have a hub area and you have to get a key to get to the next hub area. Zelda, with their use of small keys, is what inspired the pick locks. There's just a lot. And as far as movies go, some that are like really noticeable is the Del Toro trilogy of I'm going to get the names wrong now. Kronos, the one I can't remember the name of, about the bomb and the orphans, and Pan's Labyrinth, all have emblems dedicated to them, and those are the key items. His movie Mimic, where the roaches start to become human and have like these human shells they use to mimic a human, is what inspired the dog mimic in the mine section. So the whole Mines is just like a big Del Toro reference.
Is there any overarching message or theme that you wanted to convey with this game?
I'm showing this from one character's perspective, and then he comes across others that have to deal with their own like violence against themselves or depression, and I wanted it to be kind of inspiring in a way. It's kind of complicated because you can't just say, "Oh, don't be sad" in a game. So I think just the way that you show it can really make people cope with it a little better, like the whole bulimia issue, because it puts it in perspective from an outsider's perspective. Like if you had that disorder, it would be normal to you, but seeing it from the outside, it shows how abnormal it is, I think. And it's also the reason why we have that really complicated apple puzzle that no one can seem to do on the first try.
The first time I had encountered that puzzle, it was when me and some friends were playing as a group, and we had one person playing and the rest of us like watching them on a TV outside of the room. And so we would like collectively be trying to think like try this, and we would just yell over to them. And you're right, it took us quite a while to work our way through the trappings of that one.
Yeah, and there's one Let's Player they were streaming it, and I didn't get to see it live, so I couldn't like comment. But they had so much difficulty with that particular puzzle, and they thought, well, maybe you're supposed to eat and then not throw up, but that would be a positive message, and I don't think that's what this game's going for. And that made me a little upset, but they did get it eventually.
Oh man. On the topic of, we'll say, like games and Let's Players, what games do you like to play in general, or what are you playing these days?
Right now I'm just playing a lot of Sekiro, and I'm looking forward to Death Stranding when that comes out in a little while. I play a lot of games, but I don't actually play a ton of indie games just because I don't play on my computer very often. Every time I sit down on my computer, I kind of want to work. It leads to me mostly playing console games. But I played all the classic survival horror, and every once in a while I'll like to try to find a rare one and emulate it, or if I can't get a physical copy on the computer, like Siren 2.
What is the best survival horror game that you have played?
It's kind of difficult to pin it down on one because some of them are better in different ways. Like my favorite Silent Hill is Silent Hill 3, but that's mostly from an artistic and gameplay standpoint. And I know a lot of people like the writing in Silent Hill 2 a lot more. And then if you want like the gameplay suffering for art's sake, then Silent Hill 4 is really good, but it's kind of hard to just pick one to say it's better than the rest.
How did you begin as a game developer?
I just had a computer at a young age and ran into games to play. So I'd draw backgrounds in MS Paint, and I'd draw a little guy and stick him to the screen with tape. And that was kind of like the first games I ever made. And it just kept going on from there. I didn't really get serious about it until like senior year of high school, when I'd actually start programming that was not like HTML or something.
I'd say, mind you, I don't know what the indie scene is like as a whole, but I'd say based on the reception of Lost in Vivo, you've seen moderate success in this scene. With that in mind, do you have any words of advice for other indie developers or people who want to start making games but haven't yet?
I think it's difficult to start making games for profit. I think a lot of times, if you're still in college or high school, you should definitely try to make games on the side if that's what you want to inspire to do, and then gradually try to improve them, because your first games are rarely ever good. Like I probably made 30 games before Spookies, and they were all terrible, and they were all free. It's kind of difficult to get into, but the other indie developers are incredibly supportive of each other, I've found. And share each other's content a lot. And if you can't like make it on your own, you can always start to collab with somebody else and maybe do the programming for somebody else. I haven't personally had good experience with that just because I'm kind of a perfectionist sometimes and I step on people's toes. But if you struggle doing it by yourself, you can definitely use other people's help, because it is difficult making all the assets yourself and the music and the sounds, programming, and textures and animation. And I do have musicians who work with me now that I really like.
How did you respond after you got, we'll say, the kind of positive reception to both Spookies or Lost in Vivo?
It was kind of unreal when Spookies became super popular. It's still shocking how far it spread. But I did kind of do it on purpose. But it was mostly as a joke I didn't think would work, because I'd actively click on the links to games that PewDiePie would put in his description, and then I'd make sure my games were on whatever website he had them on. I was watching this really bad game that I'm not going to name that made me mad, and because it was all just hallways and jump scares, and I thought, well, if I make a game that's all hallways, jump scares, it'll probably be the most popular thing ever. So I made Spookies. And I tried to make it good in the end and improve it and not make it just hallways and jump scares, but that was the initial idea. And I'm still really surprised at all the popularity and fans of it. And then meeting people who know about it in real life is kind of crazy too.
With all this in mind, talking about these two games and the kind of success that we've seen from them, do you have any future projects in the works that you're willing to discuss at this point in time?
I have let me see. I have like 3, I guess, in dev right now. I am working on the final DLC to Spookies. It's going really slowly because it's not my main focus this instant. Some weeks it is. I'm also working on a kind of sequel to Midnight Mode from Lost in Vivo as its own game, but I don't think that's going to be released for like a year maybe, because it's so early on. And I'm still working on free content updates for Lost in Vivo in the form of like more Lost tapes. Hopefully, some of them will come out in a few days, actually.
Is there anything you want to say or add from your own thoughts on this?
Well, if it's coming out on Halloween, the Merce's tapes, the first 2 tapes at least, should be out already. So if you already have Lost in Vivo, that is already included in the extras menu. If you don't have Lost in Vivo, you'd have to get it, and I'm probably running a Halloween sale. I don't remember what percentage it is, though. So the game is on sale, and you can get it for whatever amount it says.
While the people who are on my channel know that I'm doing this, I have a few pals who are big fans of your game, because we had like a, you know, as I mentioned, like we would come together on the weekends and like play segments of this game in a row. If it's alright with you, would it be alright if I asked you to, like, say a message for him?
Hey, friends of Lenny. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the game, and thank you for supporting it so much.
Alright, thanks, man. I know I know that's probably sounded really cheesy, but they're going to flip, man.
It's okay.
They really love your stuff. It's, you know.
I've done far weirder shout-outs before, like to radio shows who wanted Spooky's voice on them. It's weird.
So, I didn't know that. That was you doing Spooky's voice in that game?
Yeah, I used a voice changer, so it's kind of unrecognizable.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I didn't know if you had, like, hired voice actors or something else to that effect.
I probably would if I had to redo it, but I didn't at the time.
Gotcha. I'm going to leave off on one other particularly interesting and iconic moment from this game that really nailed home the idea that this wasn't just some one-off game, because as you had seen and heard in the interview, a lot of people can just make very simple, low-effort horror games, and this scene, to me, demonstrates that this developer is not one to just make a low-effort game, and that the attention to detail that they have can really make them distinct. I'd like to thank Akuma Kira for agreeing to do this interview and coming on here for all of us, and thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell. I guess that's something you have to do now too these days. All the links will be in the description, and Happy Halloween.